Welcome to the Backseat, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. We took a break
A
last
little
week
bit. A little bit
without
of a
really
break.
planning on it. Let me explain what happened last week. So, we were supposed to film last Tuesday, and I had Tuesday off. Do you remember what happened last Tuesday?
No.
She does. I literally almost died. Like,
Oh,
okay, let me
I remember now.
give you some backstory here. So, that Friday, so 2 Fridays ago, we went to Dave's Hot Chicken. If you don't have a Dave's Hot Chicken, that's the closest thing we've got to like a Cane's here, and
Kinda.
they have like levels of spice from like no spice to mild or light mild, medium, hot, extra hot, and then there's like the Reaper one. And for the entire time we've been going to Dave's Hot, I've been getting the extra hot version, and I was like, it's like hot, but it's not like unbearable. Anyways, the when we went there, we saw these like two older guys who were like probably in their 50s or 60s, honestly, who both ordered it, and the Reaper is like the one that's like you have to sign a waiver to get.
It's hot.
So I'm like, you know what? It'd be funny to test it out because I handle spice pretty well. I'm like, let me test it out so that if we do any content or like YouTube challenges or TikTok challenges or whatever, it'll be kind of one of our like punishments, right? So I get like a slider, and then I also get a second slider in the Reaper. And I ate my extra hot one. I'm chilling. I take a bite of the Reaper, and what it looks like is they deep fry their chicken and they pull it out, and while it's still wet, I think they sprinkle a seasoning on it, and typically that leads to like really good flavors, kind of like a hot oil paste type thing. But you can literally tell like because like the boat it came in, like the paper boat it came in, was like there was seasoning everywhere, so you can tell they definitely like just dumped it on. And when I took a bite, I was like, it's not like horrible flavor. It wasn't the greatest, but it was like definitely where it was like, holy cow, it's like salty. There's like a lot of dust in the back of my mouth, and my like I was like burning. So I'm like, okay, I technically ate dinner already. I ate that one slider. I'm like, okay, let me save this for later. Fast forward to Tuesday. At that point, it's one, two, three on this fourth day being in our refrigerator. I'm at home by myself. We've been doing some spring cleaning, so I was like out and about, like running some errands, taking care of some stuff, and it was like 12:30, and I was like, you know what? I don't really have anything to eat. Let me just eat the leftover slider, right? Allie's at work at this point. And so I'm like, you know what? Let me just warm it up really quick. I threw it in the oven or the microwave for a little bit, and I took a bite of it. I'm like, oh, it's not as hot, as I remember. Then I'm like, you know what? The bun's kind of soggy now because of all the like the sauce that was on it. So let me just take the little tender off and just eat it as is. I'm eating it like I said. I have it in my head. I'm like, oh, this is not as hot as I remember on Friday. And then after I was done physically eating, I'm like, oh, there's the heat. So we had like water bottles in the refrigerator. I like chugged three of them, and then my mouth's still burning. We don't have any bread at home. Um, I like start chugging like 2 cups of water or milk. I have like pour 2 cups of whole milk. I'm chugging that crap. We have like a pint of vanilla ice cream in the refrigerator. I'm like chugging that crap, and like I'm eating. I'm like, oh gosh, I can't tell Allie this because this is like bitch mode status. So I literally have like the little handle on our like kitchen sinks. I'm like running it with cold water down my throat basically,
Stop. You did not tell
and
me
I'm like
that.
tearing up. Like this is like not bad. It's not. It's
It's
definitely.
pretty bad.
It's not as hot like the hottest thing I've ever eaten in my life, but it was definitely up there, right? I finish eating. It starts cooling down. I'm like, you know what? I'm fine. I'm chilling. I'm kind of with all the stuff I just partook of. My stomach was starting to hurt, so I'm like, let me just go watch a movie in bed and kind of just hang out. So I'm watching the movie. I watched the whole movie, and multiple times during the movie, I had to take a bathroom break for purposes, but nothing was like nothing was actually like flowing through me, and I'm like, I just had these cramps, and I'm like, oh dude, I need to like kind of and nothing was coming out, so I'm like, you know what, it's fine, let me just keep drinking some water, blah blah blah. I do this like 3 or 4 times throughout the movie, and then when the movie finally ends, I'm like getting the craziest like pressure right underneath like my chest, but like above my stomach, and I'm like getting hard to breathe. At this point, I was in like sweatpants and a t-shirt, so I'm like sweating, and so I'm stripping down. I'm crawling to the bathroom, trying to force myself to throw up, and I'm like shoving my finger down my throat, and I had genuinely haven't thrown up in like probably like honestly like 15 plus years, so I'm like dry heaving because I'm like I feel sick. I can't throw up. Like the smell of freaking blue stuff in our toilet, like the
Like the
bowl
chlorine
cleaner.
bowl
Yeah,
cleaner.
that's making me gag, but I'm not. Nothing's coming out, right? And like I said, at this point, I'm like half naked. I'm like sweating profusely, crawling to the bathroom, and so I'm like, I need to take like a cold shower. So I go, I crawl myself into the shower. I put on the coldest setting. I turn it on, and then I think my body was going in like a slight shock because I was like taking really short, quick breaths. And then I started feeling lightheaded. And then at this point, I text Allie. I'm like, dude, I don't feel good. And she's like, oh, what's wrong? I'm like, I, I, I'm just in so much pain. Like, I've been in pain, but this was like a whole different type of pain because like you couldn't do anything to relieve it. And so I like pat myself dry, like barely because I was like, moving just hurt. And so I think I ended up just laying in bed and just passing out like in like the most awkward position. And I passed out probably for like an hour. And then Allie texted me and she's like, hey, I'm coming home. No response. Are you alive?
Well, like all day. Well, I guess for when you were dying, you were texting me. You're like, I think I'm dying. I think I'm dead. I'm in so much pain. So like in my mind, I'm like, oh my god, this man had like a heart attack or something. Then I'm gonna come home and he's gonna be dead.
And so she like opens the door, and I think in the back of my head I hear her open the door, but I was still asleep for like a good few seconds, and then I just like popped up. I'm like, oh, what's up? You're home?
He seemed totally fine. He just like woke up from a nap. Like, oh hey babe.
And then I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I'm feeling good now. I didn't know when or how I fell asleep because I was just in so much pain. At this point, I smelled a little musty. She told me because the sweat and
He
just
smelled a
being
little
under
musty.
the blankets and stuff. And so I'm like, okay, let me go shower and then we'll go get something to eat. And then as I was in the shower, I had it on the hottest setting because at this point I was like,
Felt better.
yeah, I felt better. And then I had the whole like, and Allie was like in the kitchen or something. In the
Yeah, I'm
living
like
room
doing laundry or something, and I just hear him, babe.
And I'm like, again, I do the whole like pat myself dry. I'm still kind of damp. Crawl into bed, just like in the fetal position.
Literally just laying in bed, just
I'm
like
I can't
beads
breathe.
of sweat again.
I'm like, I can't breathe. It's like really painful again. And so she's like, okay, let's just go you got me smoothie and you got some stuff for you to eat. So like I pounded a couple.
I brought
like,
you home some Tums.
smoothies, something. Yeah, she did bring home Tums. I haven't eaten Tums and they're gross, by the way.
Yeah, they're very chalky.
So at this
and
point, I'm like,
nasty.
let me just get something so I can drink and stuff. And then I was like, you know what? What's an interesting thing I just realized? And she's like, what? I'm like, that was my first meal of the day. I basically didn't eat anything since 7 or 8 o'clock the night prior, if not earlier. And then I go do my errands and I eat that as my first meal of the day. So maybe when it came to like kind of making things pass through or like throwing up, I had literally
nothing in your system.
So at that point, after I drank the smoothie, I'm like starving at that point. I'm like, dude, I need something. So I made some popcorn and stuff, and then, Dandy walk out, and I'm like editing videos at 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, everything was fine after that.
So yeah, it was definitely that was kind of the reason I was genuinely in so much discomfort. But I'm chilling now. The next day, I ate some pineapple and some tahini, and someone at work was like,
you sure
you
should
told
be
me
eating
you were like,
that?
yeah, you told me your little like situation you had yesterday. You're literally eating basically citric acid, or not citric acid. Is that
Citric acid. Is this
pineapple? I don't know. Sure, sounds right. And then some like spicy seasoning. I'm like, oh yeah, that is what tahini is. I'm fine. Like whatever. So here we are. So
live and you learn.
lesson learned. 1, don't eat very spicy things to the point where you have to sign a waiver when you're on an empty stomach. 2, yes, we can handle it, maybe in like small increments, like bite-sized pieces.
Little nuggies.
And 3, maybe don't do like a challenge of that kind by yourself. Because oh my gosh, like worst pain I've felt in a minute. Anywho, so that there's that little shenanigan story I had from last week. But you don't like spicy.
Mm-mm.
Have you ever, like, what do you think is like the highest pain, like spicy pain you've had? Like, was it a hot sauce? Was it like you've never really dabbled?
I don't know. Probably that last dab thing we did.
The last dab thing, we did do that for a Patreon episode, which may or may not pop up on YouTube here soon. So be sure to follow us at the Backseat Banter on YouTube. But, which was fun. That wasn't that bad. I've been
That
thinking
was
about
bad.
it. I've been thinking about it a lot recently. Like, people who like spicy food, it's not the flavor because they all taste different. Some
Like,
of them just
gross.
taste like crap
It's
because
gross.
they worry about it just being hot. It's really, they just like the feeling, I guess, of their mouths burning, which is a weird,
Not fun.
like an odd thing. Kind of like sour. Like sour things, I guess they have a taste, but it's like the after effects that people maybe like quote unquote desire more than the actual flavor.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, but I don't know. I was definitely in a lot of pain. Like, I was scared. I was being a little dramatic. Like maybe I need to go to the restaurant or the hospital. I don't know. Like,
And he's like,
what is it called when
"Do I
your
need to go to the
stomach just like has a
hospital?"
hole or something? Like an ulcer? Is that the correct term?
I think so.
A stomach ulcer. I know
He's
you
like,
can
"What if I
get
need
it.
to get my stomach pumped?" I'm like, "You don't, babe. I promise. It'll pass."
But yeah, the dog's got to witness me possibly dying. Dude, and when I was crawling to the bathroom too, Hazel's like, "You're
What are we
playing?"
doing, Dad?
Yeah, I'm like, dude, get out of my face, dude. Holy crap. So I was thinking, kind of a segue from that. There are some stupid things. This is one of the more stupid things I've done in like recent memory.
Oh God.
But there are some stupid things that I thought about as a kid that I did that makes zero sense now. You know, obviously we didn't know it was stupid at the time. But I figured we'd talk about maybe some like dumb stories you did or some things you did as a kid that, you know, was kind of like dumb for no reason. I'll get started because you look a little confused there.
I don't know if I was.
Allie was a perfect child.
I was an only child till I was like in middle school. No, almost like elementary school. I was a girl. I didn't do anything.
See, I listened to the Basement Yard Boys, and they have these like stories, like whack stories. Like I mean, I was under like a kind of a strict household, so there wasn't super stupid things I used to do, but I do have a couple things. Nothing like crazy, but I thought it was kind of funny. I've cut a dollar bill in half, thinking that I would be able to split it. Am I gonna get in jail for that? No, statute of limitations. What's that thing mean? Like it's been like 10 years or something like that. I don't know.
You're asking me.
It was a joke. It was a fake dollar bill. Anyways,
Obviously.
yeah, I thought that we got paid. I think for like cleaning someone or babysitting or dog sitting or something.
Sure.
So they gave me a $20 bill, and this is back when I was probably under 10 years old, and I'm like, you know what? Let's split the dollar. You know, we'll split it evenly. So
'Cause that's how that
we
works.
cut a $20 bill in half. A couple other things I used to do was our parents made us take fish oil pills. It's supposed to help with your brain or something. All I remember is
Okay.
they told us that it was supposed to like make you smarter.
I don't
that
think,
true?
I don't think that's true.
Dude, have
but,
you ever cut a pill open? Ever?
I mean, no, I've never
Well,
had
dude,
to.
these fish oil pills were
They have like
the,
liquid in the
gel ones.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And so we cut that thing. It was kind of tough to cut, but once it cut,
Yeah.
dude, that liquid like squirted everywhere. Dude, it genuinely smells like fish. Like,
Well, it's
it
called
was,
fish oil.
It was bad.
Yeah,
It was bad.
I
But
can imagine.
things like that. You explore a little bit as a kid that for no reason. It's crazy how like easy it is to con children.
Yeah,
I mean, that sounds bad, but it's like, there's that
Mm-hmm.
saying where it's like, as innocent as a child, they don't understand back motives or like right and wrong.
Right.
But I've been in a kind of a baby fever recently. And Allie's been like sending me TikToks of like gross babies.
babies throwing up in parents' mouths and exploding in their diapers. Because I always have baby fever. It freaks me out when he has baby fever. So I'm gonna Uno reverse it and be like, look at how
And
disgusting
the thing
babies
is,
are.
like, I don't want a baby
He wants
at
a
the
baby.
moment. I
That's
want
fair.
to be a dad at one point, but it's like having a cat. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like cats, but if it's not my cat, I think it's cute.
That makes me really want to have a baby with you.
No, I mean, at this point in my life, I'm like, I see it like coworkers'
wow.
babies or like little like kids just around the mall or something. I'm like, oh, you're so cute. I want one of you. I want to dress you up like a little Barbie. And then I'm like,
Until it's crying at you at 3 o'clock in the morning because it's.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like a cat. Like a neighborhood cat's fun to play
Stop
with.
comparing babies to cats.
I think it's a good example. I would pet a neighborhood cat. I would never own a cat. But I would own a
So
baby.
you're gonna baby. You don't own a baby. It's not like something you like rent.
A rent-to-own baby? Well, you can. One would argue that's what adoption is.
Yeah,
But one would argue you also get paid for adoption.
That's true.
Which I didn't know that. I'm personally adopted. I guess my parents were just ragging in some change, bro.
Because you guys were all adopted.
Yeah, there was 5 of us, yeah. So, I know. 2024 the year, trauma dumping, make it a thing. I've been doing a lot. They've been actually calling out every single time I do it.
Trauma dump
Yeah.
at work.
I didn't know what it was. Yeah, one day I'll be. It was so funny. What was it? The other day I said something, or someone said something, and I'm like, "Oh, must be nice. At least you have." Or they said something like, "Oh, my dad decided to like pay for my dinner or something like that." I'm like, "Oh, must be nice to have a dad." And they're like, "Oh, there goes Michael, trauma dumping again." Nobody actually has any sympathy for me anymore.
Not anymore.
No.
No. Trauma dumping is the best way to bond with people.
It's true. I used to do that with Allie. Like everybody I used to work at when we worked at the restaurant was like, it was my favorite thing to see people's reaction when I made like a
Just drop like a weird bomb and
like a dark humor.
joke.
Yeah, about my parents and my childhood.
Yeah.
But I always
Typical.
make joke about like adoptions
Right.
or like it was out of context. Long story short, we were like putting freight out and one of my coworkers like tossed something to the other person and it hit her, and they were like, "Oh, I like beat up her to like make her do what I want her to do." I'm like, "Oh, that sounds awfully familiar." And at this point, I'm like, I'm not like that close to this coworker yet, so they're like, "Oh, whoa."
You're like, oh, I'm gonna go the other way. Act like you didn't just say that.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you can joke about it, then it's not really, that's like the best coping mechanism. I feel like, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, what are some stories from you from your dumb childhood?
I genuinely don't even think I could tell you. I was actually talking about this to Lexi. Like today
Don't
or-
drop names, bro. She doesn't deserve this.
I dropped her name the other day and you kept it in.
I know. I wanted to cut it out, but whatever.
Okay, fine. I was actually talking to one of my coworkers about this the other day.
Lexi, yeah.
Yeah, Lexi. Whatever. And how we were both talking about how we feel like there's such a big chunk of our childhood that is just like blacked. I genuinely could not tell you a lot of information about my childhood.
That's fair. I
And-
feel the same way.
We were both like, and that's on trauma. But
What trauma did you have as a
I
kid?
don't know. That's what she said.
Oh.
I don't know. I feel like I genuinely, there's some things where I'm like, yeah, I remember that happening. And then some I'm like, I'll see pictures and I'm like, that never happened. Where it just feels like a fever dream, if anything.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I was a good kid, though.
I try to be, for the most part.
I also had good parents, so it was really easy to be a good kid.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to live vicariously through our kids. I'll be okay if they get in a little bit of trouble every now and then, you know what I'm saying?
Well, they're going to have to. That's how kids are.
Anywho, another thing I just thought about was one day I used to be big on like doing my own oil changes and like whatever, blah, 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 right? Let me tell you about my like, if you know me on a personal level, I have like the worst luck when it comes to vehicles, specifically my Subaru at the moment. I mean, I've been like 3 accidents within like 1 year, like genuinely. I was literally driving it. I'll pop up a picture. I was driving around with plexiglass as my rear windshield for almost 2 years.
Was it 2?
Yeah, I think it was over 2 years. It was
No, it was almost a full 2. Because
was
wasn't
it
it like
almost? Yeah, so I
it
did
was
it.
like coming up around like Thanksgiving and
Yeah,
got it fixed
so
before.
I know it was in November of 2020 because I broke it the day I started working. So the night before I started work at my job, I broke it.
So you broke it
I
only
went to work.
a month living down here?
Yes. So I was door dashing at the time, right? And oh yeah, I don't think this is news to people. So I'm door dashing at the time, right? And I'm in a Sonic drive-through parking lot picking up an order, and it was like a 50. Okay, I say it's 50-50 split on the what was wrong here, right? We pick up like 6 slushies for some stupid hobo who needed.
It was like we were delivering to like the college,
Yeah, it was like some
like
stupid
off
kid who
campus
wanted to
housing.
order something at
Yeah.
like 10 o'clock at night, and like I said, I'm door dashing because I didn't have a job at the time yet, and I started my orientation the day later, and as I Sonic is a one way,
Sonic is a one way around the building.
but I am like, you know what?
We were really close to where you like enter the parking lot into
Like
Sonic.
like
So
two
like
spots away.
honestly, it yeah.
In a perfect world, I probably would have been able to knock it out.
With how late it
So
was, yeah.
as I back up, my camera like just turns to the Subaru logo, and then it turns to the camera itself. And so as I'm backing up, I don't see anybody. I didn't check my mirrors, and then
Relying strictly on the camera.
and then I back into this big like work truck, and by big I mean it's not like a semi truck; it's like a personal work truck.
It was
I
bigger
don't know how to
than
explain
like
it.
it was bigger than someone's like personal work truck, but it was smaller than like
Like a cement truck or something.
yeah.
But this is how big so I have a Subaru Crosstrek, and so his bumper hit right underneath my rear windshield. That's how big it was compared to mine. And so let me see if I can find just really quick.
Like he shouldn't have been parked there.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
So let me.
he was parked in front of like where you pull into order.
So
he was too big to go through the drive-through and too big to fit into the
so he
drive-in
just
slots.
parked in the middle of the drive through.
Yeah, he was like far enough to the side where people could go, but the angle we backed out
And
just hit
this
it.
dumbass was out of his car ordering it in the stall. So this is why I say it was 50-50 because he was parked illegally.
Yeah.
And so I also have a picture of that. But let me see. When did I get it fixed? Long story short, I got in that car accident, and then literally fast forward to December 4th of 2022, so literally a month later, I get in a T-bone accident because of snow. And so my car was in the shop again.
When you put it in the timeline like this, it's so bad.
It's so depressing.
in the moment it didn't seem like this close, but
And then I'm pretty sure like a couple of weeks after or something, didn't my car get hit? Like it was a side swiped just during the night. Remember, because I went to work and my window and my rear view light, like my brake light, was just shattered. And so I had to get
there was
that
like pieces
replaced.
of that. There was that. Yeah, because we had to park on the street in our last place we lived in. Just swiped his car.
Yeah, okay, no, okay. So it was, dude. This is hilarious. The new timeline. November 23rd of 2020. I get in the accident with the rear windshield, right? It has plexiglass. Like I said, there will be a picture up.
Super
November
ghetto.
4th is when I got slide swiped and my like brake light was broken, and then so was my bumper. I got that fixed. And then November 9th is when I got my windshield replaced because it looks like I had the plexiglass on when I got the original hit as well. So within a week I got it fixed and then fixed again. And then December
you got T-boned.
4th, yeah, well, I T-boned somebody.
Yeah.
But again, I had reasons. There was snow, bad visibility,
Yeah.
and our park, like our street, was like just crap.
You could never
Like-
see pulling out, and he just slid
Yeah,
right
at
into
an
traffic.
intersection, like a T intersection, I'm like pulling out in the snow, but there's like this big truck, another big stupid truck, who's like parked right on the turn.
Right on the corner.
So
you
I had
cannot
to
see.
I had to like pass him a little bit to see oncoming traffic, and then I was just a little far. Anyways, that's my history with cars. But then during COVID time, I was like I said, I typically like used to change my oil filter and oil with my parents and stuff. And so at this point, I'm like, oh, let me just change my oil and save some money during COVID and stuff. So it turns out the transmission fluid lug nut and the oil change, the oil dumpage bolt are like right next to each other. They're like, 6 inches apart, if that. Definitely drained my transmission fluid straight into like an oil thing. So I couldn't it had oil in the tray already. So I couldn't just reuse it. And so I'm like 30 minutes away from the closest like dealer, like not dealership, but like a car shop. And so I had to get it towed, blah, blah, blah. So there's that as well. I also tried to change my calipers to save money, and I broke a screw that was back ordered, so I had to get that delivered through like Seattle. So my car was just stuck in my drive through on lifts the entire time, like car jacks for like 2 weeks. And then when I finally changed my calipers and my brakes, I kid you not, for a year and a half, it was so squeaky.
Very
I
squeaky.
mean, I forgot how embarrassed I was because that's when we started dating. Every single time I put any pressure on my brakes, it's just like
So squeaky.
you
It
know.
was so
And
bad.
so I finally had some money to like replace my brakes through like a car shop. Um, I pull it in. I'm like, okay, can I just get my change my brakes? And they're like, okay, here's the quote. A couple $100 or whatever. I don't know how much they charge. And then they called us and they're like, hey, by the way, as we're taking off your brakes, your calipers are like messed up. I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, I don't know. I can't explain it. They said, I've never seen calipers this messed up before.
You're like, oh, I don't know how
And it
that
was like, I
happened.
think they told me they were like ridges. So it was like a flat dip, flat dip, flat dip, flat dip. So I think I just totally misaligned it or some crap. And I
Yeah.
know they're like picky. So I was driving on that for like a year and a half, I think. And so, here we are with $1,000 quote. And I'm like, yeah, here, what a great time to start a credit card.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't have really good luck when it comes to cars. I've also been hit. I remember there was another time where I was driving. I had to run to the post office before work, and so I'm on
I
this
forgot about
turn
this.
lane, and it's like the one where it's like left turn yield on green, and so it turns green. It's one of those lights that don't even have a green arrow because you're supposed to just yield all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm in the front of the line. It turns green. People are coming towards me from the other direction, and then immediately after it turns green, the guy behind me hits me, and I'm like, I get like jolted, and I look behind me, and this guy's like, you can tell he's like all pissed. He's like,
Like, what did I
no,
just
yeah,
do?
he's like screaming at himself in the car, and so like I get out of the car, and like I said, I'm in the middle of traffic, so I get out of the car. I'm like, hey man, he's like, I'm sorry man, did I hit you? I'm like, no, I'm just stepping out of my car right now in the middle of traffic because I had nothing else better to do with my life. He bro played it off, and then he like walked up. I'm like, oh, I don't see any damage, and he's like, yeah, I don't see any damage, so just gonna go, on my way. I'm like, whatever, bro. But yeah, pretty cool. You've been hit technically,
Technically,
like someone just
yeah, I was leaving our old apartment and the car in front of me was turning. So I was behind him waiting for him to turn. And I'm just like, minding my own business, listening to music. And all of a sudden his brake lights turn on. And I was like, that's kind of weird. So I turned mine on, start backing up. And he just like
his
floors
reverse
it.
lights,
Huh?
his
Oh,
reverse
yeah.
lights.
Yeah. His reverse lights turn on, and he starts going backwards. So I'm like, oh, that's weird. So I start reversing, I just keep backing up. And he like hits his gas and hits me. And I was like, what? And then he parks his car and just sits there and just doesn't get out. I was like, sir?
Yeah, I'm at work, and Allie literally texts me. She's like, someone just hit me. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I was like on my way to like my sister's like drama thing. And I'm like,
yeah, and so as she's explaining me to the story, I call her. I'm like, what happened? She's like, I don't know. Like he's turning right onto like one of the main
and he just
roads,
reverses into
and he
me.
just reverses for no
He
reason.
barely speaks English. So trying to talk to him, he just like gets out of the car. Okay, okay, okay. And I was like,
And so I don't think you said you didn't exchange insurance. You didn't
no,
exchange
because my
numbers.
car,
It was just cosmetic damage according to you.
to like my license plate and like my license plate cover. So like nothing really happened.
But it's like, dude, that's why we
Why?
moved.
Yeah, I'm like, why are you with your turn signal on to turn right? Why are you reversing?
Yeah, and like
Where are you going?
that means he didn't look at all. Because if you were
No.
backing up with him, then the guy didn't even care.
No.
And so I guess in that aspect, he also just thought he was clear because he was like, oh, I'm backing up. Nobody hit so far. But like, dude, it's kind of like why we moved. It's like
It was so bad
it
over
was
there.
just so not ghetto, but it was like not the greatest place for two young adults.
Yeah,
And,
no.
not the nicest neighbors,
No.
crappy ass homeowners, or we lived in
Yeah.
like a townhome type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just not upgrades for sure though.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the story with my dumb mistakes I've made throughout my life. Obviously, I've made plenty more. Allie, I guess, just has nothing wrong in her life. I guess she's just a perfect person.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and another depressing thing about this whole car thing was that I had a Steph Curry auto numbered at 25. Steph Curry is my favorite NBA player of all time, and I got that as at it's like $1,000 card, give or take, and I got it for about $300 because long story short, I got it for $300, and I actually sold that card to afford to fix my window or my window and
Basically, your entire back door.
yeah, my entire back door. So the thing was, because the bumper hit my windshield at the point where basically the glass turns into metal, it hit right there, like a baseball size type
Mm-hmm.
of dent. Safelite wouldn't replace it because they said that the the metal was too dented for them to fit the glass in there. So I actually had to buy a whole like new door off of eBay at like a whatever you call it, a junkyard.
Yeah.
Luckily, I was able to deliver it to the store, and we like actually fixed it on the clock. But yeah, it was depressing. I was talking to one of my friends about that card like last week, and I'm like, dude, I wish I wasn't. I don't live paycheck to paycheck. I wish I wasn't a crew neck, so I didn't have to get rid of that one like sports card for me to afford that. But you live and you learn. You regret things, but then things work out for the best, I guess. Now my car is running just fine. The AC could needs to get. I went and got an oil change the other day, and I was looking at my dealership's website to see whether or not I can just get it through them done, and it was like, "Do you still want to get these repairs done?" And it's like all these like little things that obviously, um, dealerships upcharge, but one of them is my AC compressor is going out, and that in itself was $1,400. And I'm like, no, I'll just pay for my $50 oil change, you know. So Allie's had some mechanical problems with her car.
Nothing too crazy. I couldn't tell you what any of them were other than the battery.
Yeah, the battery was kind of. So Allie tells me one day, I'm at work already. She's leaving for work. She's like, hey, my car won't start. It's not moving, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, it's probably your alternator battery. She was able to get a car ride to work, and then her and I were almost like at home at the same time. We got off about the same time. And so we get in her car. I put my jumper cables on her battery. I'm revving up my engine. I tell her to start her car, and nothing's like starting. And hers is a push to start. Mine isn't. So I'm kind of leaning towards the battery aspect already. And so I'm like, okay, let me try it. So I go in. She starts revving my car. I have the key. It's like a push to start, so the key doesn't have to be in the like actual slot. So I start it. It's like cranking. It's like clicking, but then it never started. And then as I'm in her car, I see a little message thing that says
Like
anti-theft
anti-theft.
deterrent activated. I'm like, I don't know what that
Like,
means.
that's weird.
But then I get out of the car and I close it.
And you hear my car go beep, beep, beep.
So that's what happens when you leave the keys in the car. And I'm like, And so I try to open it. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Not only is her car dead,
Yeah.
she doesn't have a second key.
Don't gotta back
And
up.
I personally was the one who locked her keys in her car. And at this point,
Yeah.
she's like stressed out of her mind. And when she's stressed, she cries. And when I'm
I
stressed,
cry really easily,
I like
so.
to kind of get mad and yell.
Yeah.
So she's over here crying on the floor.
I'm like sitting on the ground. I'm like crying because this was a
And I'm like,
bad day. And he's like getting so mad at me
I'm
for
like,
crying.
I'm like, it's not that big of a deal. We'll get this fixed.
But the such annoying thing is that if this happened to his car, he would be so pissed. And he's like, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm like crying. And he's like, stop crying. Shut up. Stop crying.
And then
go inside.
No, yeah, because at this point, people were coming home too. So our neighbor literally like walked up the stairs behind us, and Allie's just crying. I'm like, go inside the house. You're embarrassing me. And so she calls like Geico, and Geico like
It was like an hour and a half
And
before he got there to fix it.
it was free, and it
Right.
took him like 5 seconds. By the
Literally
way,
just pulled out this long like piece of wire. Just goes boom boom. Okay, you're good.
and then at this point, while we're trying to figure this
Thanks.
out, I'm like calling her dealership to see if they had a backup key for any reason.
They
Turns
don't.
out there was one, but they got rid of it because we never picked it up. Because at this point, when she got her car, we lived
We
2
were
hours
living
north.
2 hours away.
So we're
We
like,
can't just hop in.
yeah. And then I was all pissed off, so I went to AutoZone. I'm like, I'm just gonna go get your
He
battery.
took the battery out of my
Because
car and took it to
AutoZone, yeah,
AutoZone.
AutoZone does free testing and free charging. So I'm like, okay. So I gave it to them. They're like, oh, come back in an hour and a half. It'll be fully charged by then. So when we go back, I go home. We cool down. I apologize. I'm like, okay, let me go take you out to dinner and let's go pick up your battery. Like I said, I need a diffuser sometimes. I don't get like, let me hit you or yell and scream.
No.
It's just more of, I get flustered because just with my history as like a child and like just being on my own, when something doesn't go my way, I get super stressed that I guess in a neurological way, I think that I'm gonna prove my parents right that I can't do things on my own or I'm not gonna be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So in like a mental way that I don't realize, I get super flustered when things don't go my way because I'm like, I've done all this research, I've done all this planning, and this happens though. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So Allie's, great for me when it comes to that. Where even though she cries, she gives me my space, which I feel like sometimes is a good thing, sometimes it's not. But we work through it. I realize
Right.
what happens, and I
It doesn't
apologize.
take very long either.
I'm like, chill the frick out, Michael, and you're fine. It's not that big of a deal. So we get dinner, and then we go there, and I'm like, oh, all the doors in AutoZone are open. I'm like, what the heck? So we walk in. I'm like, oh, we're here to pick up the battery. They're like, oh, are you the one with the battery? I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's mine.
They're like, well, long story short, the battery was so bad that it kind of exploded in
Mm-hmm.
a way when it was charging, and they're like, we had to air out because of all the sulfur.
Yep.
Long story short, I guess when she bought her car used, the company sticker that was on the battery means that it was a refurbished battery that was good enough to sell, and they put that in like used cars a lot, is what I heard. Long story short, it was just a battery, so we had to buy a $80 battery, and
Something like that. Yeah.
ta-da, it worked. So
Yeah, we like came home, put it in my car, it started, went back to AutoZone. He like ran his tests and everything and was like, yeah,
yeah, it was just the battery.
yeah, that's good.
And
You're good.
we clocked off. We got home like 3 or 4, and we didn't go to bed till like almost 10, dealing with
It
all
was
this
so
crap.
annoying.
Yeah. Anywho, Allie mentioned the other day, she's like, I can't wait till you get your new car. I'm like, I can't wait, dude. My car
Well,
has been through some.
the inside of his car too, because of his lab, there's like a chunk missing out of his headrest. His emergency brake is like ripped to shreds. It's
Yeah,
time for
when
my guy to get a new car.
I was with like living with friends, and so when I worked 2 jobs, I would take Luna to the job site, and every now and then like let her out and tie her up to trees and stuff. But
She hung out in the car
yeah, so
a
she
lot,
hung
and
out in the
she was a
car.
puppy. She got bored.
Yeah, so it was like a puppy. Nobody was home, so I had to take her, and so I was working 2 jobs in the most inconvenient time because up there was like 10 feet of snow in
Yeah.
construction, and so I couldn't just tie her up because she's small and stuff. So I left her in the car, and every like hour I would just go let her out or something. And in those times, she's had her way in my interior.
Yeah, it's not pretty.
It's not pretty. It's
No.
been in, and it hasn't even hit like 97,000 miles on it yet.
You're still under 100,
Yep.
so
And it's 10 years old now though, which is crazy. Obviously, I didn't buy it new, but
right.
anywho, well, that's the story of our car problems. Fun
Love.
stuff, lots of mistakes, big mistakes, and the stupid thing is, I hate costly mistakes. When it costs you physical money, I don't care if it causes me pain, it doesn't cause me trauma, but when it costs me money, that's where it's just like kind of just like
That's when he gets angry.
it hits a nerve. You know what I'm saying? Anywho, there's a bunch of stories that you guys may or may not appreciate. But thank you for everybody who's been watching the TikToks though. We've been kind of thriving there in a way, more than normal. It's not like we're like viral,
Viral.
but like yeah, we've been having fun. Allie's been nice to have on the podcast, even though I'm just yapping over here. And I believe if things go well, Connor will be back in the next couple episodes. So
Mhm.
we will be back to normal. Anyways, be sure to follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at the Backseat Banter. If you are watching this, leave a like and a comment. And if you're watching on TikTok, leave a like and comment. If you're watching on Instagram, leave a like. Anyways, but we'll see you. Oh yeah, at Backseat Banter, at the Backseat Banter.
Don't forget the.
That was smooth as frick, and we will see you next time.
Bye.